Have you ever wondered what the soul actually sees and feels at its own funeral? It sounds unbelievable, but it's real. Saint Faustina Kowalska revealed in her spiritual diary something that'll change how you think about death forever. After death, the soul doesn't just disappear into nothingness. Instead, it becomes even more aware, more conscious than it ever was in life. Picture this. The soul can see its own lifeless body lying there. It hears every single word spoken in that room. It knows who's genuinely praying and who's just going through the motions. The soul witnesses everything with crystal clear spiritual vision that nothing can hide from. Most folks believe the soul just takes off immediately after death. But Catholic faith and mystical revelations show us a completely different reality. There's this sacred moment between death and burial where something extraordinary happens. The soul finds itself standing before God's eternal light, where absolutely nothing remains hidden. For some souls, this light brings radiant peace. For others, it brings pain and deep regret. But here's what'll blow your mind. The prayers of the living can actually change everything in that moment. Saint Faustina wrote that even a single Hail Mary, offered with genuine faith, cuts through spiritual darkness like lightning, bringing warmth and hope to souls who desperately need it. If this message resonates with your heart, write in the comments, "Lord, have mercy on souls." Your simple act of faith might be exactly what someone's waiting for right at this very moment. Dear friends, what I'm about to share with you comes straight from the mystical experiences of one of the Church's most trusted saints. This isn't just theory or wishful thinking. These are revelations that the Catholic Church has examined, approved, and recognized as authentic spiritual truth. You see, Saint Faustina didn't just write about divine mercy in abstract terms. She received detailed visions about what actually happens to souls after death, especially during those crucial hours when loved ones gather to say goodbye. And what she discovered will transform how you pray, how you attend funerals, and how you understand the incredible power you have to help souls even after they've passed from this world. Stay with me, because what you're about to learn could be the most important spiritual knowledge you'll ever receive. Let me tell you about Sister Faustina. This wasn't some dreamy mystic lost in fantasies. Elena Kowalska was a simple Polish nun who worked in the convent kitchen and garden, scrubbing floors and tending vegetables. But God chose this humble soul to receive some of the most profound revelations about mercy and the afterlife that the Church has ever documented. In her diary, Saint Faustina describes visions so vivid and detailed that they read like eyewitness accounts. She wrote about accompanying souls at the moment of death, seeing exactly what happens when someone passes from this world. And what she witnessed challenges everything most people think they know about death. According to Saint Faustina's mystical experiences, the moment someone dies, their soul doesn't immediately zoom off to heaven or anywhere else. Instead, there's this incredible period of awareness where the soul remains connected to the earthly realm while simultaneously encountering the divine. It's like standing in two worlds at once. The soul can see its own body with perfect clarity. It watches family members crying, friends sharing memories, and clergy performing funeral rites. But here's the kicker. The soul can distinguish between authentic grief and mere social obligation. It knows when someone's truly praying for its welfare versus just going through religious motions to look good. Saint Faustina described how souls become incredibly sensitive to spiritual realities during this time. They can sense love, they can feel hatred, and they're acutely aware of every prayer offered on their behalf. Imagine being able to see into people's hearts with perfect clarity, knowing exactly who cares about your eternal destiny and who's just there for appearances. But there's something even more remarkable. Saint Faustina revealed that souls can actually communicate their needs to the living through spiritual impressions. Sometimes people get sudden urges to pray for someone who's died, or they feel compelled to have a mass said for a particular soul. According to Saint Faustina, these aren't random thoughts. They're often the soul itself, reaching out through spiritual channels, asking for help. The saint also wrote about how souls experience the prayers of the faithful. She described prayers as visible streams of light that pierce through spiritual darkness. The Our Father appears like golden rays. The Hail Mary flows like gentle streams of comfort, and the Mass creates blazing pillars of divine grace that souls can actually see and feel. This isn't poetic metaphor, folks. Saint Faustina was documenting what she claimed to witness with her own spiritual eyes. The Church spent years investigating her writings, examining her life, and testing her experiences against Catholic doctrine. In 2000, Pope John Paul II canonized her, officially recognizing her as a saint whose mystical experiences are worthy of our belief and attention. What makes Saint Faustina's revelations so credible is their consistency with traditional Catholic teaching about purgatory and the communion of saints. She wasn't inventing new doctrines. She was providing vivid, first-hand descriptions of spiritual truths the Church has always taught. Think about the implications of this. Every funeral you've ever attended wasn't just a gathering of mourners saying goodbye. It was a spiritual event where the deceased soul was present, aware, and desperately hoping for your prayers. Every time you've whispered a prayer for someone who's died, that soul knew about it and received genuine spiritual benefit from your act of love. This changes everything, doesn't it? The next time you're at a funeral, you'll know that your prayers aren't just comforting gestures for the grieving family. They're powerful spiritual actions that can literally transform the experience of the soul who's passed away. Now let's dive deeper into what Catholic theology teaches about this mysterious time between death and burial. The Church has always maintained that death isn't a light switch that instantly transports souls to their final destination. Instead, it's more like walking through a doorway into a completely new realm of existence. When someone dies, their soul undergoes what theologians call the particular judgment. This isn't some courtroom drama with God as a stern judge ready to condemn. It's more like standing in the presence of perfect truth and love, where the soul suddenly sees itself with absolute clarity. Every choice, every action, every moment of their earthly life becomes crystal clear. For souls who lived in friendship with God, this moment brings incredible joy and peace. They see God's mercy surrounding every mistake they ever made. They understand how God's grace was working in their lives, even when they couldn't see it. It's like finally understanding a beautiful symphony after hearing only scattered notes throughout life. But for souls who turned away from God, this moment can be tremendously painful. Not because God is punishing them, but because they finally understand what they rejected. Imagine spending your whole life ignoring someone who loved you unconditionally, and then suddenly seeing that love with perfect clarity. The pain comes from within, from recognizing what was freely offered but refused. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Most souls fall somewhere in between. They loved God imperfectly. They tried to do right but made mistakes. They had faith but also struggled with doubt, selfishness, and human weakness. These souls experience what the Church calls purgatory, not as a place of punishment, but as a process of purification. Think of purgatory like a spiritual washing machine. The soul wants to be completely clean before entering God's presence, but it still has stains from earthly life. Purgatory removes these stains through a process the Church describes as purifying fire. This isn't literal flames, but rather the burning away of everything that prevents perfect union with God. And here's the absolutely amazing part. Our prayers can dramatically affect this purification process. When we pray for souls in purgatory, we're basically sending them spiritual care packages. Our masses, Rosaries and acts of charity become like cooling water on burning souls, like gentle breezes in spiritual heat, like loving embraces that remind them they're not forgotten. Saint Faustina described seeing souls in purgatory and witnessing how earthly prayers affected them. She wrote about souls who were suffering intensely, suddenly receiving relief because someone on earth offered a prayer or sacrifice for them. She saw how a single mass could free multiple souls from their purification and send them straight to heaven. But there's something even more beautiful. According to Catholic teaching and Saint Faustina's visions, souls in purgatory can't pray for themselves anymore. Their time for earning merit is over. They're completely dependent on the prayers and sacrifices of people still living on earth. That means you have incredible power to help souls who can no longer help themselves. During those hours and days around a funeral, when the deceased soul is most present and aware, your prayers carry special weight. The soul can sense every Ave Maria, every Our Father, every moment of silence offered on their behalf. They know when you light a candle for them, when you attend Mass for their intentions, when you make small sacrifices asking God to apply the merit to their purification. This is why the Church has always encouraged prayer for the deceased. It's not just a nice tradition or a way to comfort grieving families. It's a powerful spiritual reality that can literally determine how long a soul remains in purification and how intense their suffering becomes. But here's what's truly mind-blowing. Souls who reach heaven through your prayers don't forget your kindness. They become your intercessors, your advocates before God's throne. Every prayer you offer for a soul in purgatory creates a bond of gratitude that lasts for eternity. These souls, once purified and in heaven, spend their eternal existence praying for you and your intentions. So when you're at a funeral, remember, this isn't just a sad goodbye. It's a sacred opportunity to practice the most powerful form of charity possible, helping a soul transition from earthly life to eternal joy. Your prayers in those moments can make all the difference between prolonged suffering and swift entry into paradise. Let me share something that'll absolutely transform how you think about prayer. A few years back, I heard about a woman named Margaret who lost her husband unexpectedly. Tom had been a good man, but like most of us, he wasn't perfect. He'd struggled with anger, hadn't always been faithful about going to Mass, and had some regrets about how he'd treated people over the years. After Tom's funeral, Margaret felt this overwhelming urge to pray for his soul. She couldn't shake the feeling that he needed her help, so she did something beautiful. Every single day for a year, she attended Mass and offered it for Tom's soul. She prayed the rosary daily, asking Mary to intercede for him. She even gave up her favorite coffee and offered that small sacrifice for his purification. About 6 months into this routine, Margaret had the most vivid dream. She saw Tom, but he looked different, younger somehow, and radiantly happy. He thanked her for her prayers and told her they'd made all the difference. He said he was finally free and would be waiting for her in heaven. Margaret woke up with such peace, knowing her love had truly helped her husband's soul. Now, some folks might dismiss this as wishful thinking or grief processing, but according to Saint Faustina and centuries of Catholic mystical tradition, these kinds of experiences are more common than you'd think. Souls who benefit from our prayers often find ways to express their gratitude and let us know our efforts weren't in vain. The Church teaches that certain prayers and actions are particularly powerful for helping souls in purgatory. The Holy Mass is like spiritual dynamite. Every time Mass is offered for a specific soul, it applies the infinite merits of Christ's sacrifice directly to that soul's purification. Saint Faustina described seeing how a single Mass could free dozens of souls from purgatory and send them straight to heaven. The Rosary is another incredibly powerful weapon in this spiritual battle. When you pray the Rosary for deceased souls, you're not just reciting words. You're inviting the Blessed Mother herself, to intercede for these souls. And Mary, being the Mother of Mercy, has special influence with her Son when it comes to helping souls in need. But here's something most Catholics don't realize. Even tiny sacrifices offered with love can have enormous spiritual impact. Giving up your morning pastry and offering it for souls in purgatory. Choosing to walk instead of drive and dedicating the inconvenience to helping deceased souls. Staying patient when someone cuts you off in traffic and offering that moment of self-control for purifying souls. Saint Faustina wrote about how souls could see these small acts of love like sparkling gems. She described how a woman's decision to skip her favorite TV show and pray instead appeared to souls as a brilliant light that brought them tremendous comfort. These aren't grand gestures that make headlines. They're simple acts of charity that carry incredible spiritual weight. The Divine Mercy Chaplet, which Jesus taught to Saint Faustina, is particularly effective for souls in purgatory. This prayer applies the merits of Christ's passion directly to souls who need purification. Saint Faustina recorded that Jesus promised special graces to souls in purgatory when this chaplet is prayed for them. But there's something else that's absolutely crucial to understand. The timing of your prayers matters enormously. Those first days and weeks after someone dies are when souls are most aware of earthly prayers and when your intercession can have the greatest impact. It's like the spiritual connection between earth and the deceased soul is strongest during this period. This is why traditional Catholic practice encourages immediate prayer for the deceased. The wake, the funeral mass, the burial service, these aren't just ceremonies for the living. They're intense periods of spiritual activity where the prayers of the faithful can dramatically affect the soul's experience. And here's something beautiful. When you pray for souls in purgatory, you're joining an incredible spiritual community. The saints in heaven are also interceding for these souls. Angels are carrying your prayers directly to God's throne. The souls in purgatory who've been helped by your previous prayers are asking God to bless you in return. Think about it this way. Every time you pray for a deceased soul, you're practicing the highest form of charity. These souls can't help themselves anymore. They're completely dependent on your goodness, your remembrance, your willingness to spend time asking God to help them. Your prayers are pure gift with no possibility of earthly reward. But the spiritual rewards are incredible. Souls who reach heaven through your prayers become your eternal friends and advocates. They pray for you constantly, asking God to shower you with graces and blessings. They're grateful beyond anything we can imagine, and they express that gratitude by interceding for you until the end of time. So don't underestimate the power you have to help souls who've passed from this life. Every prayer matters. Every sacrifice counts. Every Mass you attend for their intentions brings them closer to eternal joy. You're not just doing something nice, you're literally participating in their salvation. When most people think about funerals, they imagine a sad but straightforward event. Family and friends gather. Someone says nice things about the deceased. There are flowers and tears, and everyone goes home feeling like they've said goodbye. But what if I told you that's just the surface reality? What if there's an entire spiritual drama happening that most people never see or understand? According to Saint Faustina's mystical visions and Catholic spiritual tradition, every funeral is actually an intense spiritual battlefield. On one side, you have forces of light, angels, saints, and the prayers of the faithful, working to help the soul transition peacefully into God's presence. On the other side, you have forces of darkness trying to increase the soul's suffering and delay its purification. Picture this. While mourners are sharing memories and singing hymns, there's an invisible war happening for the welfare of that soul. Angels are carrying prayers upward like incense. Saints who had special devotion to helping souls in purgatory are interceding before God's throne. The Blessed Mother herself often appears to comfort souls who still have even a spark of faith. But evil forces are also at work. They can't claim souls who die in friendship with God. but they can try to increase fear, despair, and suffering during the purification process. They whisper lies about God's mercy. They magnify memories of past sins. They try to convince souls that they're forgotten and abandoned. This is why authentic prayer during funerals is so crucial. Every genuine prayer you offer becomes like a sword of light, cutting through spiritual darkness. Every heartfelt hymn creates protective barriers around the soul. Every moment of reverent silence provides peaceful refuge from spiritual attacks. Saint Faustina described how souls could actually see the spiritual battle happening around them. She wrote about souls who were terrified until they saw streams of prayer light flowing toward them from people at their funeral. These prayers didn't just comfort the souls, they literally drove away dark forces and created safe spaces filled with divine grace. But here's something that might surprise you. The spiritual authenticity of funeral attendees makes a huge difference. Souls can distinguish between people who are genuinely praying for their welfare and people who are just going through motions or attending out of social obligation. The prayers of one person with authentic faith can be more powerful than the empty words of dozens of people who don't really mean what they're saying. This is why funerals in churches, surrounded by sacred objects and conducted with reverent liturgy, have special spiritual power. The consecrated space, the blessed candles, the holy water, the Eucharist, these aren't just symbols. They're spiritual realities that create powerful protection and blessing for the deceased soul. The funeral mass, in particular, is like spiritual nuclear energy for helping souls. When the priest elevates the consecrated host and offers it for the soul's purification, something incredible happens in the spiritual realm. Saint Faustina described seeing how the infinite merits of Christ's sacrifice flowed directly to souls during funeral masses, sometimes freeing them immediately from all purification. Even the smallest details matter in this spiritual battle. Holy water sprinkled on the casket creates blessings that follow the soul. Flowers placed with prayer become offerings of beauty that comfort the soul. Candles lit with loving intention create light that souls can actually perceive and draw strength from. But perhaps most importantly, your interior disposition during a funeral affects everything. When you attend with genuine sorrow for the person's death and authentic desire to help their soul, you become a warrior of light in this spiritual battlefield. Your prayers carry special weight because they flow from real love and concern. This is why we shouldn't approach funerals casually or see them as mere social obligations. Every funeral is a sacred opportunity to participate in the most important battle possible. The struggle for a soul's eternal welfare and swift journey to perfect joy in God's presence. Friends, after learning about these profound spiritual realities, you can never look at death the same way again. You now understand that funerals aren't just goodbye ceremonies. They're sacred opportunities to practice the most powerful form of love possible. You have the incredible ability to help souls who can no longer help themselves. From this moment forward, every time you hear about someone's death, remember that their soul is aware, conscious, and hoping for your prayers. When you attend funerals, you're not just showing respect to grieving families. You're entering a spiritual battlefield where your authentic prayers can make the difference between prolonged suffering and swift entry into eternal joy. Don't let this knowledge remain just interesting information. Put it into action. Start praying regularly for souls in purgatory. Attend Mass with specific deceased people in mind. Pray the Rosary for souls who might be forgotten by everyone else. Offer small daily sacrifices, asking God to apply the merit to purifying souls. And remember what Saint Faustina taught us. Even one sincere prayer can pierce through spiritual darkness like lightning. Your simple "Lord, have mercy on souls" might be exactly what someone desperately needs right now in their purification. If this message has touched your heart and opened your eyes to these spiritual realities, please don't let it end here. Share this video with your family and friends. Help spread awareness about the incredible power we have to help souls through prayer and sacrifice. Subscribe to our channel and join our community of people committed to living these spiritual truths every day. By supporting this channel, you're helping us continue sharing the profound wisdom of saints like Faustina, who received direct revelations from God about the mysteries of eternal life. Together, we can build a community dedicated to prayer, mercy, and helping souls transition from earthly life to eternal joy. Most importantly, carry this message into your daily life. Let it transform how you pray, how you attend funerals, and how you understand your incredible power to practice charity towards souls who can no longer earn merit for themselves. Remember that every prayer matters, every sacrifice counts, and every act of love for deceased souls creates bonds of gratitude that last forever. Because in the end, the greatest treasure you can accumulate isn't earthly wealth or success. It's the gratitude of souls in heaven who reached eternal joy, partly because of your prayers. These souls become your eternal friends, advocates, and intercessors, praying for you until the end of time.